Tech Sideline is presented by First Bank and Trust Company, the bank that puts you first. They can meet your banking and financing needs for personal, agricultural, business, commercial, mortgages, and so much more. Visit firstbank.com to learn more.
What's up, Okie Nation, and welcome into another edition of Talking with Teal. For whatever reason, this has become very, very popular. So we had to bring David Teal on set
for inexplicable reasons
to talk about all the news out of Blacksburg and the next couple weeks for Virginia Tech. All that and much more coming up on this edition of Talking with Teal, which starts right now. And we record on Tuesday, September 23rd, 2025 from our Tech Solutions Studios in the Virginia Tech Corporate Research Center. Remember to like, subscribe, and refer the show to a friend. I'm your host, Carter Hill. To my left is the Virginia Sports Hall of Famer, David Teal. Across the way is our managing editor, David Cunningham. To his right is our senior staff writer, Andy Bitter. And Nick Brown, our director of media, is producing behind the scenes. David, welcome to the set. First time since February of 2020. I went back and looked.
Wow, right before COVID.
Right before COVID. Brutal.
That is brutal.
Back when you could still go out and talk to people in person.
Yes.
And that's right after I had taken the buyout.
Oh, really?
From the Daily Press and didn't know what I was going to do.
Free agent back then.
Yeah.
Can you guess what you talked about on that podcast, by the way? What the number one story was?
I don't know what the number one story. I just remember Will asking me about my relationship with John Swafford and how I had worked that over the years to the point where, you know, access to the commissioner and one-on-ones when perhaps, you know, others wouldn't get them. And we just kind of walked through that, but I don't remember the story. You know, it was basketball season.
So that had to be around the Fuente Baylor thing,
yes,
right?
It was the Fuente Baylor thing. Yes.
Wow. Because that was in January 2020.
And who'd have thought? 5 years later, second football coach removed.
Yep.
Yes.
Let's start with this. Of course, the timing was great. It coming out yesterday. Virginia Tech's Board of Visitors will vote on a budget increase that will add $229 million to the school's athletic department. This will start with $47 million in the 2026 fiscal year that will increase the budget to $190 million, which is towards the top of the ACC. How big is this for Virginia Tech?
It's huge, both numerically and from a perception standpoint. And, you know, this is fiscal year 26. We are talking right now. This is not any kind of ramp up. They plan to do this immediately. 1 week from today, in about 22 minutes, we'll all be watching the board meeting virtually and presumably, you know, talking through this, but it feels like a rubber stamp. And the devil's in the details, and we're all kind of wondering, and I don't know if we'll get any enlightenment from the board that day. Where is some of this money coming from? And particularly, the biggest piece of this is the philanthropy. $30 million a year. There's 120 of your 229.2. Is some of that already pledged? I don't know. And I was thinking about this coming over, guys. Where does the Reach for Excellence campaign fit in here? You know, how many years ago did they trot out Fuente and Charlie Flieger and Witt? It was this huge deal. And I asked Witt about it this summer, and he said the campaign ends in June of 27, and they've raised 320 of the 400 million, or they have pledges for that. I don't know if at all this fits in or where it might.
Yeah, it's you get to the fundraising stuff, and it's like, okay, is this Hokie clubs, this university side?
Yeah.
I mean, you have to imagine if this is a university budget that they're dealing with, and the Hokie club is kind of outside of that, if I have that correctly, right? This would be a university side that
the Hokie club is an independent foundation.
Yeah, so again, a lot of questions, and unfortunately, it's not like open to public comments. So I don't really know how we would get those. I hope the board asks a lot of questions. I would imagine they would about this stuff. I'm curious. what do you think this does to change the level of coach? Like they've been broadcasting this out. This is on College Game Day. Pete Thamel's out there. I mean, they clearly wanted to broadcast this information. What kind of candidate can you get now if you've put this out there already and go, hey, this is the kind of investment we're going to put into this program?
Yeah, I think we talked about this last week. To steal Brett Yormark's line in the Big 12, we're open for business. And Andy, I think it sends a message not only to coaches and their agents, but I think it sends a message to prospects, most of whom have agents now, and not just prospects. You go players that are currently at other schools who have agents and might be thinking about hitting the portal. This is going to resonate in many quarters, and I think it absolutely broadens the pool for Virginia Tech, coach-wise, general manager-wise, athlete-wise.
I'm curious about this. I'm looking at this thing. How does the NIL factor into this? I mean, we know make it more attractive to players. It's not like they can just give this money directly to players. I mean, the rev share, obviously. I always kind of wonder how it works within the structure. Like, what can the school do NIL-wise to get some deals done? How much of it has to be from outside sources? What do you think this kind of plan can do to help the NIL side of this whole thing, or make it more attractive for players that want to play here?
Well, I think it can from the philanthropic side, because where are those dollars going? And
provided they're fair market value, or however Deloitte is defining this whole thing.
Yes, and the rollout of that has been, shall we say, suboptimal. They couldn't even get their own data right. They had to send out an addendum about how many deals they had cleared and rejected. So we know the rules in professional sports. We still don't know the rules in college sports. And it may be quite some time before we do.
We don't even know who's in charge of college
Yeah,
sports.
Exactly.
Like, it's not even just the rules, that like who's making the rules, who's upholding the rules. I mean, it seems to go to the courts an awful lot.
It does, and now you have Cody Campbell out there, who's the big Texas Tech booster, who's getting a clearly return on investment based on that performance in Salt Lake City on Saturday. He's proposing this, government-based association to overlord college sports and essentially do away with the NCAA. And he wants an aggregation of media rights, and Greg Sankey and Tony Petitti will fight that tooth and nail, because they're not going to give up the advantages that they have financially with their television contracts. But yes, who is in charge is a very interesting question right now.
On Virginia Tech, the Hokies will go from having the lowest overall athletic budget of any public school in the ACC, 14th of the 18 overall, according to Witt's slides back in August.
I'm not sure that's some of those numbers. Like Virginia Tech.
So Nick pulled it up for us.
Yeah, Virginia Tech's listed there at $122 million. In fiscal 24, Virginia Tech reported to the NCAA nearly $133 million in athletics expenses. So I don't know if they're,
and I feel like there's a projection of 144.
Yeah,
that number was out there.
Yeah, for this
year.
Yeah, so
yeah,
the 122 as of July 1, 2025. I'm like, really?
Well,
your point is well taken.
Yeah, you go from Virginia Tech will go from towards the bottom to towards the top. I feel like that is an impact far and wide. You obviously have to get the right people in charge, potential AD, potential GM, obviously a head coach. But I feel like this could have huge ripple effects across all sports, not just football.
Well, I think primarily football and men's basketball, but yes, all sports. And I know Carter wants to dive into that too, with the entirety of the Hokie sports portfolio. But I think every coach over on campus right now is thinking, what's my cut going to
Yeah.
be? Not personally, but my program's cut.
Yeah, so let's go to that. This is a very unfortunate thing, and trust me, I have a ton of respect for everybody that plays and participates within a certain sport at Virginia Tech. But in today's day and age, I think it's worth bringing up this topic of discussion. Virginia Tech currently has 22 sports. In today's day and age, do the Hokies really need to sponsor 22 sports, in your opinion?
Well, let's go back to next slide up there. Georgia Tech only sponsors 17.
Yeah.
Which is a huge advantage for the Yellow Jackets as they fund out their their revenue sports. But 22 is about, it's not close to what Virginia does. It's not even remotely close to Berkeley or Carolina. Louisville's at 23. Clemson's at 21. 22 is, right there, kind of average for the public schools. So I don't think it's excessive. And woe is the athletic administration that attempts to cut sports. Because, Andy, you referenced everything ends up in court. You're landing in court. There is absolutely no question. It happens every time. Look at what Stanford with billions of dollars in endowments and one of the richest schools in the country tried to cut sports. They had to backtrack it, and it cost Bernard Muir, the athletic director, his job. It was such a fiasco. So cutting sports is a perilous plank to walk. I would caution against it.
What do you guys think?
Part of it, the university, I think, has to decide, how much it wants to support these sports.
Yes.
I mean, if they want the sports to exist, they can support it. And think of the money that comes back to the university on some of these sports. The scholarship bill just on some of these rosters that they have. I think it's interesting. You look at schools like UVA. A lot of these sports are getting endowed by boosters to
they
set
are
it up
a
for
fundraising heater in Charlotte
to set it up for future success. We're going to endow this sport. It's going to have the kind of money it needs. And I don't know, you would feel like if there's a sport on the chopping block here, maybe like volleyball. It hasn't had the success. It's not a revenue generator. How much does volleyball cost?
Well, and if you're not going to try and be competitive, is there really a need to play it necessarily?
Yeah, but what is the cost for volleyball for a year? Do we know the operating costs? I'm trying to guess.
If I had my laptop, I could
Right.
bring up the
Chris
finance.
put something about this on the boards the other day. Let's see if I can find it.
That high though.
No, it's
we're not
not.
talking like 8 figures here.
No,
it's
no,
nothing close to that. I feel like, when you're talking about an athletic department budget of now, it's gonna be pushing $200 million. Like you can't find that money to keep that program alive.
Right.
Again, I just think you're inviting trouble by eliminating a sport like that. And who wants an athletic department that has 12 sports?
Yeah.
Are you proud of something like that? If it shrinks that down, like all at the altar of football to do all this stuff, I think you can be successful and have a lot of sports and still be good at football. I don't think you need to make a choice.
The minimum is 16. That's what you can have.
for Division I, and you can't just cut a women's sport.
Yeah.
Well, that's the other
Well,
one. Title
Title
IX.
IX's
You got to keep
involved.
Title IX
Very
considerations in this
much
whole
so.
thing.
And then what men's sport, which a lot of people are out there whacking wrestling or track.
Those aren't going
Yeah,
anywhere.
those- yeah, I wouldn't worry
those are
about
two
that.
hokey wheelhouses right there. They're not going anywhere.
I just think when you have an athletic department, you want to make it enjoyable for everybody and a wide tent and a lot of people in this whole thing. And it just cutting sports doesn't seem like the way to do it to me.
No.
Yeah. Well, and those small Olympic sports, the volleyballs, the golfs, I mean, they're not the reason why football's not succeed, right? They're not the ones taking money away from football. So, yeah, it's such an interesting dilemma because of the Title IX stuff, because you would get so bogged down into the weeds of something else has to go to balance it out. And the bottom line is I don't know that Tech's necessarily investing anything in it. So it's not like it's taking away money from a basketball or another sport. So it's, I don't know, just weird situation where it's like, I understand it, but it's probably more trouble to cut it than it's worth.
And I hate to bring it up because nobody wants to do that, but it is, I think, a realistic discussion in today's day and age. But back to the initial conversation, how much do you expect Virginia Tech's going to be able to pay a football coach now, do you think? Do you have a range at the top of your head you think the Hokies can do?
Carter, I think it depends on the coach.
I'd hope it depends on the coach.
Yes.
Yeah, that's
No,
true.
They're going to pay Andy Bitter $10 million.
And you're not going to pay Brent Pry
Listen,
over
I will
$4
take that
million.
job for half of that. Okay.
I'll go even lower because I'm closer to retirement than you are. But we've thrown out different types of candidates before. If you get somebody who's recently had a hefty buyout, or we talked about Pat Fitzgerald last week. He just got, from what I've been, a 9-figure legal settlement from Northwestern. I'll let you do the math as to what 9 figures is. He doesn't need $10 million a year to coach. And there are some coaches, I think, who would be savvy enough to say, you don't need to pay me all this money, but by golly, my staff, my support crew, my players, absolutely, let's dedicate those resources to them.
I think that was the Shane Beamer model at South Carolina. Didn't he come in at, I can't remember the exact amount.
$2.5 million. I looked it up the other day.
Relatively low for an SEC coach. I think Shane, knew, just let me get my foot in the door. I'll do well enough here. They paid their staff pretty well. Now, what's Shane making? Like $8 million a year?
Yes.
Like, he has cashed in on that, but he was smart enough to know going in, I need a really good staff around me. I maybe need to come in and say, hey, you can get me a little bit cheaper just to give me this opportunity. I've never been a head coach before. I think that was one of the issues I had when they hired Pry, is like $4 million salary off the bat. And I'm going, who was hiring Brent Pry? You were the only school that was going to hire him as a head coach. Do you have to start him off at $4 million just to say that you're paying him $4 million off the bat?
It's almost like it's an ego thing, right?
Like, oh, you're an ACC coach, you have to make this much. It's like, pay what you need to pay to get the coach, but be smart about it. I mean, if you're hiring Bob Chesney, just for an example, you're not going to have to pay him $8 million to give him this job. Be smart about it. Pay him what you need to. Use a lot of that other stuff with the staff. Use a lot of other stuff with the players. I mean, if coaches were smart these days, they'd be like, all right, don't spend all that money on me quite so much. Spend some of it on the players too, so I have guys to play with. I think there's smarter ways to go about this, and I hope the people in charge will know that when they make this hire.
Yeah, you feel like this now kind of could open the door for the Hokies if they wanted to go after a sitting Power 4 head coach?
Yes.
I mean, it obviously depends on the right situation, but
I think it's absolutely conceivable. I know Andy's preferred candidate is Matt Campbell, and there is a lot to like there. I was crunching some numbers last night, and if you'll excuse me for looking at my notes, and Chris, in his breakdown of Bob Chesney, I read his first installment of potential coaches, and Chris remarked quite accurately how Chesney at every stop except James Madison, at Salve Regina, at Assumption, and then at Holy Cross, took over programs that were in the dumpster, and like
that's putting it mildly.
Yes, and then immediately sets about to winning football games and championships and going to the playoffs. In the 10 years before Matt Campbell showed up at Iowa State, the Cyclones were 41-82 overall, 19-66 in the Big 12.
Gene Chizik was part of that group. Eventual national championship winner Gene Chizik at Auburn.
And since this is his 10th season, so the sample sizes are the same.
Yeah.
There are 68-51 overall and 46-36 in the Big 12. And they came so close to being in the college football playoff last year.
Yeah.
Can I throw out 2 sitting Power 4 candidates that not really been talked about? I did see somebody brought this up in the comments the other day, and I was talking to somebody else about this name. He's at a private institution, so don't know the buyout. Manny Diaz at Duke.
Would be interesting.
Manny Diaz can coach him some defense. And clearly Duke has invested.
Yes.
And maybe this is naive, but I wonder about coaches sometimes. Like, Duke took a chance on Manny Diaz.
Because it was right after he got fired at Miami.
Well, no, he
or
went
sorry, he was at Penn,
with
State.
James Franklin,
State.
yes. But and I'm not sure you could call him a failed head coach at Miami, because Miami was going to keep him if they couldn't get Cristobal. It was such a peculiar, and Dan Radakovich comes in there as AD, and he's not even involved in the search. We talk about we don't know Witt's role. Dan Radakovich said, you guys go do this. This was all booster driven down in Coral Gables, and they went and got Cristobal. He agrees to come home. So they kicked Diaz to the curb. And he'd been middling at Miami. It's not like he was below 500. But, Duke gave him a second chance. And in that regard, and since they have given him resources and since they have been successful, is he therefore loyal to Duke? And would, after 2 years, he pack up and say, not only am I leaving, I'm going up the street to one of your conference rivals.
The other part of it is, Duke shelled out what, $4 million for what was it for the
Mensa?
quarterback? For
the quarterback?
Mensa?
Yeah, I think it was a 2-year, $8 million deal.
Yeah.
Does Virginia Tech have that kind of commitment to NIL right now, or that kind of resources? Now, I don't know what Duke is paying the other guys.
Right,
on the team.
and let's also understand, Andy, that the Mensa deal was done before NIL Go in Deloitte. That's back when folks were front loading these deals because they knew July 1st was coming, or they suspected July 1st was coming, and the implementation of the House settlement that was allegedly going to curb some of these deals. So I don't know that you're going to see any more $4 million multi-year deals for anyone, unless that cap goes way, way up, or the courts rule that the cap is illegal.
Just in terms of commitment, though,
Yes.
it feels like Duke's boosters or Duke's whole machine there
They're in.
got in gear before Virginia Tech did. Now, I think, you see the kind of money that Virginia Tech's board is going to be throwing the athletic department's way. Perhaps Virginia Tech has figured it out now, but Duke was already there.
Yes.
They already kind of got the game at that point. So I wonder how much that plays into a head coach's decision about where he wants to coach. I mean, I think every school right now has to decide, are we in this or are we not?
Yes.
Right? And there's been so much resistance, like, well, that's not how we did things for the long time. It's like, well, that's how it's being done now. And if you don't do it that way now, you could be left behind. So yeah, the schools have to make that decision. I think that's something that every head coach is going to take into consideration when they're looking at these jobs.
Nick brought up this guy's name the other day. This is a random one, so you may have to think on your feet, but I am going to throw his name out there. Chris Kleiman at Kansas State.
Not exactly humming along this year.
No. They've been really good under him, but this year they've sort of faltered a little bit.
No games in Ireland on Virginia Tech's schedule here, so maybe he's in the clear in that whole thing. He was a really good coach when they hired him, and he's done well at Kansas State so far. It's just been a disaster this season. I mean, that's, if you want to hire somebody that's doing pretty well, I mean, he's a good football coach, but they haven't been doing well this year. That might be a tough one to sell.
Okay.
I don't know.
Yeah. The sales pitch to the fan base, I know winning the press conference and all that is trite and really unnecessary and probably irrelevant. Well, no, it is irrelevant. But there is perception out there, and this has got to be appealing to prospects, to agents, and and hey, the season's still young.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like the Wildcats can't turn it around a little bit, because he does have a track record.
Yeah, he's won
Last
he's
4
won
years.
8, 9, or 10 games.
Yeah, 8 wins, 10 wins, 9 wins, 9 wins, 2 ranked seasons.
It would be a
49 and 31 at Kansas State. It's pretty good.
It would be
track record.
It would be a little bit like when Virginia Tech hired Buzz Williams. He was so good at Marquette, and then that last year at Marquette, I think he was a 500 head coach before he took the Virginia Tech job. And the year prior, they went to the Elite Eight. Random example, but that was something that came to mind.
the comparison.
You're right. He was
is-
17 and 15 in his final season.
His
at
last year,
Marquette.
The
Marquette.
comparison of Virginia Tech hiring Buzz Williams would be if Virginia Tech hired PJ Fleck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
PJ Fleck
Yeah.
and Buzz Williams are kindred spirits, I feel like. in
they
there.
are, and the whole, hey, props to Whit Babcock for landing Buzz, because no one thought he could do it. But that was a very peculiar situation. Number one, Buzz, for all his quirks, has incredible self-awareness. And he knows that he has pretty much a limited shelf life wherever he lands. And he kind of got that feeling at Marquette, number one. And number two, this was back when the Big East was kind of, they had just divorced from ESPN, and they were going to Fox, and Buzz is like, I'm not sure that's a great move for our program. We need to be on ESPN. That was very much kind of in his mind as he was looking around, and with struck while the iron was hot there.
All right, let's take a quick break for an ad read here on Talking with Teal on Tech Sideline.
This episode of the Tech Sideline podcast is brought to you by Rich Web, your local provider of top-tier IT managed services. For 30 years, Rich Web has offered a comprehensive suite of cutting-edge solutions tailored to empower businesses of all sizes in today's digital age. From top-tier network engineering services, ensuring seamless connectivity and security, to our exceptional managed endpoint and cloud services, providing proactive maintenance and strategic optimization, we're dedicated to delivering excellence at every turn. Rich Web, driving enterprise IT. Visit richweb.com to learn more. Rich Web has proudly hosted TechSideline.com for over 2 decades.
All right, and welcome back to Talking with Teal. You know, we were talking about head coaching candidates for Virginia Tech, and during the break, there was another name brought up within the ACC, maybe not necessarily for Virginia Tech, but I did want to get your thoughts on Fran Brown's future at Syracuse. I mean, shout out Giovanni Heater, by the way. Nick and I had this
breaking
conversation.
his heart right now. Oh my gosh.
I know. I was going to say, this may be a tough discussion, but we were having this conversation the other day, and kudos to Syracuse. They get down to Death Valley, and not only did they beat up on Clemson from start to finish.
Off.
What do you think about
injuries the whole time?
Yeah, get their $25,000 fine.
I've $25,000 to help you beat Clemson. I do that every week.
I would take
Every
it.
week,
Yep.
yes.
What are your thoughts on his future at Syracuse?
Somebody's coming after Fran Brown. If not this season, then soon thereafter. Remember last week, Andy, we were talking about, from media standpoint, who would be the most entertaining coach. And we talked about the Lane train. Throw Fran Brown in that. He is a riot. And I just remember his post game last year after they beat Miami in the Dome in the regular season finale. And he's just shouting out Dabo, saying, "See what I did for you? I got you in the ACC champ." I mean, it was great material. He is content. And what do we all want more than anything else? Content. And, oh, by the way, apparently he and his staff can coach their backsides off, and they can recruit a little bit too. Because you look at all the talent that went out that door in the offseason, and the schedule they were facing, everybody's like, ooh, they're going to take a downturn. And they still may. But, wow, he's got it going on there.
Yeah, and I think he's smart enough to know that, you know, there's only a certain level of success that you can achieve at Syracuse, right? And this is a guy who coached in the SEC before, so he's got that on his checklist of things that ADs might be looking for when they're hiring a coach. You know, can he handle the SEC? Well, he's recruited down there before. He's coached in it before. I think any kind of SEC school could obviously come over the top on his salary. I think, it's a private school. I think their estimates out there is making around $4 million a year, something like that. First time head coach, that wouldn't be too surprising. So this is just the food chain aspect of it, right? I mean, this is, if you're in the ACC, in the Big 12, you can pay your coach quite a bit relative to the other schools there, but Big 10, SEC, if they want you, they can make a pretty attractive offer to you and pull you down there. And I think, Fran Brown he's young too. He's 43 years old.
Yeah.
But could you imagine catching a coach like that on the up and up? That'd be great. That'd be pretty good for the long-term trajectory of your program.
Very similar to how Clemson caught lightning in a bottle with Dabo.
Right.
He was about that age when they gave him pulled the interim tag. Now, obviously, issues now. Talking about shelf life.
Oh my!
His may be waning quicker than any of us ever imagined. And Carter, to go back, because during the break, Andy brought up Chris Kleiman's coaching record. North Dakota State, and then before this season at Kansas State. Hell yeah, throw him on a list if you can, because that
Like
record.
69-6 at North Dakota State with
69
four
to 6
national
with 4
championships.
national championships.
Go Bison.
That program was humming along
Yeah,
pretty well.
it was a
before that.
factory
It's not
prior
like
to
he
that.
took over as like immediately they
Dude
were like
knows how
that
to win,
before.
though.
But
Yeah.
national titles are national titles, right? Like you don't turn those down.
You do not.
Speaking of Lane Kiffin, did you see? I was thinking about y'all the other day because we were talking about Lane on the podcast,
Yes.
and they do their celebration where they like dunk the basketball after a
Yes.
turnover on the sideline. He comes over and he picks it up and he slams it against the ground. Alley-oop, flushes
They've
it
got-
home. Lane Kiffin all over Twitter again.
Almost turnover a turnover basketball hoop. That's the most Ole Miss Lane Kiffin.
Oh, I thought you were
Yeah.
talking the more recent Lane Kiffin news.
Yeah, I don't know.
That
Yeah, I
the
didn't wanna
LSU
bring that up,
linebacker
but
is
yeah.
dating his daughter. They like
Went
publicly
public 5
announced
days
their
before their game.
relationship 5 days before the LSU Ole Miss game. It's like
That's
the
hilarious.
SEC, man. It's crazy down there.
He does a TikTok with her before every single Saturday football, obviously Saturday football game, but every Saturday morning before when Ole Misses games, he like gets ready with her in the morning and they do like a 6-minute video about the game and everything. It is Lane Kiffin's hilarious. Like I love Lane Kiffin.
Talk about a personality.
You want to
But-
talk about like boosting ratings for a game? I mean, that's like professional wrestling type stuff. What they're doing down there. I mean, who's not going to want to watch LSU, Ole
LSU, Ole
Miss to
Miss
see
now.
how this
Yeah.
thing plays out?
Yeah.
It's 4D chess. He's way ahead of everybody else in the game right now.
He gets it, man.
Yeah.
He gets everything about today's media age.
Is he gonna be in Gainesville next year?
I hope not. I think he's found his
Yeah.
niche
Yeah.
there at Ole Miss.
I think that's the perfect community for him.
Yeah, I mean he's
And he can win there.
yes he can. I think he can win as much at Ole Miss as somebody else can at Florida.
So 9-game conference schedule for the Atlantic Coast Conference obviously felt inevitable, but it became official on Monday. What is your reaction?
You used the right word. It was especially inevitable, Carter, after the SEC announced its decision to go to 9, and to be the only Power 4 league not playing 9 games, just to Jim Phillips especially felt untenable. Now, some would counter, well, just to get to 10 Power 4s because the SEC is committed to playing 10 Power 4s, 9 plus 1. Well, why doesn't the ACC do 8 plus 2? There's probably not going to be the inventory out there for everyone to get 2 P4 non-conference games every year. Now that the SEC is at 9, the Big 12's already at 9, the Big 10's already at 9. You look at South Carolina's future schedules. Now that the SEC has gone to 9, South Carolina is going to continue to play the Clemson game. So there's 10. Do you think South Carolina is going to keep contracted home and homes that they have now? They have them with NC State. They have them with Virginia Tech. They have one with Carolina. And I believe they have one with Miami. Those are going away. And that was going to be a problem for the ACC. Now, the interesting part about this is the math doesn't math. You can't have an odd number of teams like the ACC has with 17 and have everybody play 9 conference games. You end up with a half of a game, and it just doesn't work. So next year, when this goes into effect for the first time, you're going to see multiple teams, either 3 or 5, maybe as many as 7, stay at 8 and play 8 plus 2. Starting in 2027, everybody is going to play 9 except one team. And that one will not rotate, but it will vary from year to year. A lot of years it'll be Clemson, a lot of years it'll be Florida State, probably a lot of years Georgia Tech. Like Virginia Tech, I think they'll be at 9 almost, if not every season, almost every season.
It's kind of messy, but I think part of it's that's left unsaid is like, what's the membership of the ACC going to be in 4 or 5 years? Like, this might resolve itself, and you might be down or up to an even number of teams anyway. Virginia Tech specifically, I mean, they're sort of set up in the future to have, the 10 games required. They have a lot of seasons where they already have 2 sometimes FBS opponents on there. Next year, that is not the case. They got VMI, Old Dominion, at Maryland, James Madison. So one of those is going to have to get dropped.
Yes.
Which one do you think gets dropped? And so I guess they would add another conference game into that.
Right. Yeah. VMI is the,
Yeah.
It seems like it would be the cheapest.
Well, especially because they've already paid JMU to move it a year.
And you're probably not going to
And you're not.
axe ODU
Well, they've already messed with the ODU series.
Yeah.
Right. And oh, by the way, you're getting paid by the number of television viewers.
Right.
Correct.
And VMI screams ACC N plus. That all over. That's going to be a streaming game. So you're getting no bank there.
That's actually, in some ways, maybe a win for Tech.
Yeah,
Trading.
yeah.
I mean, obviously, the VMI rivalry is really cool, and it dates back years. But you're trading in a potential streaming game for another conference game.
Yeah.
That could be a Clemson. That could be an ABC noon game, depending on how good you are. So
Well, the VMI was scheduled in a back era
Yeah.
where this was not the scheduling model that you looked at. You were just looking to fill out home games, and we'd have 1 FCS, 2 Group of Fives, 1 Power Fives. Like, that is gone at this point. You can't schedule like that at all.
No.
And probably thankfully, I mean, some of these games, I mean, when Indiana played Indiana State, they beat them like 73-0. It's like, what are we doing? Why is Florida State beating up on some of these teams that they're playing? Like, these games don't need to happen the way they are.
No. And not only that, the CFP is putting a greater emphasis now on schedule strength. And I think
Do you believe that, though?
I do.
Okay. Because so far, it's always just been who has the fewest losses.
Yes. But, they changed the metrics this year. They made a big deal out of announcing that. And lo and behold, the SEC the very next day went to 9 conference games. I think that was a coincidence.
Are you going to miss this spring conversation that we have every year? 8 games, 9 games. It's been going on for 15 years. They went to
you're
9
talking
games.
about like at a spring meeting?
Yeah, spring meetings. It comes up every year. There was one time where they actually approved 9 games, then they went back on it.
But then Notre Dame came in.
Okay, that was the reason. I forget the reason exactly.
That they had finally figured out that they were going to go to 9. This is back when membership was 12. It was going to work perfectly. But then the Notre Dame contract came in. Notre Dame, full membership except for football, and they were going to play 5 conference games, and so they backtracked on it. But think about it if you're a fan. I get confused sometimes.
Yeah.
So the Andy Bitter plan, back when there was 14 teams,
so perfect.
Yes, the 3-5-5 model, and the ACC finally adapted it without giving him any credit. Adopted it, excuse me.
I have not gotten a residual check from that.
No,
For 1 year of it?
Yeah, it was an outrage, and it was one and done. And then expansion happens, and I've got it right here, guys. Here's the whole schedule rollout, with the 17-team league that they put out last year.
And it's going to be one and done? Or two and done?
2 and done. This goes through 2030.
And they're going to have to
scrap it.
Scrap it.
Jeez,
I mean,
man.
Is Florida State ever going to come back to Blacksburg?
Right.
I mean,
No.
like, seriously.
That's the thing. Good thing that Louisville's coming to Blacksburg
This
year.
year.
Or else
Yeah.
Louisville
Yeah.
would never end up in Blacksburg.
well, they're playing 9, so maybe
Yeah.
That's true. That's true.
It'll be more often. But the most overworked man in America is Michael Strickland, the ACC senior commissioner for football, who's like the scheduling guru. I mean,
It's like they're keeping him busy. It's like every year it's a new
yes.
thing.
And they're still, they're trying to figure out, Clemson and Notre Dame have this extended series, and I know there's like questions. Does that count for the Notre Dame games? I think the conference very much says no.
Well, the extra games, like Clemson already had.
Part of their rotation.
Yes, part of the rotation. I think Clemson had 5 on the books. So the extra 7 are like not counting.
But for everybody, because everybody still has to play Notre Dame. those games are still factored in.
They are, but see, like Virginia Tech has them in coming up for 2 consecutive years. I wrote it down.
I think
Yeah.
27 and 28,
27,
maybe.
28. At
And-
Notre Dame, then Notre Dame comes here 28.
And you very much, if you're Virginia Tech, you want to keep those games for ratings, and it's your nice non-conference Power 4. But Cal, Stanford, and SMU haven't been rolled in to the Notre Dame rotation.
That's true.
So there is talk that some of these games that schools have on the books against Notre Dame are going to go away to work the Mustangs, the Bears, and the Cardinal in. Now, Stanford, Notre Dame used to be an annual thing. There seems to be some question as to whether that's going to continue. There are still so many unanswered questions scheduling wise.
So we have a 17-team league,
Yeah.
which is weird with an odd number. Some teams will play 8. Some will play 9. Some will play Notre Dame, a team that's half a member of the ACC right now. Some teams will play non-conference games against in-conference schools, which I think they're trying to do away with.
Yeah,
they don't like that.
No, they do not. And
The ACC does
Yes.
not like that.
they do not like it at all because, again, that assures that one of your teams loses, although it also assures that one of them wins.
Right.
And given the ACC's record against Power 4 peers this year, which I believe is 5-12, they might take a 500 record. But I think Virginia, NC State, if Jim Phillips has his way,
It's not going to happen.
Virginia, NC State this year and next will be the last time you have ACC teams meeting. And we talked about confusing fans. I mean, that to me is like the height of confusion. And you certainly don't want it to happen multiple times in the same season. You know, Wake and Carolina did it, NC State and Virginia. But if all of a sudden you had like 3 or 4 of those going on simultaneously, it would be complete chaos.
It would, but if I'm those schools, I think that's my message to the ACC, like, fix this schedule, right? It makes no sense that North Carolina and Wake Forest did not play each other with any kind of regularity, that they felt compelled to schedule this series between teams that should be playing each other more frequently.
And that's what this schedule that they rolled out last year resolved. You're going to play everybody every 3 years. And now, you know, with an additional conference game, that frequency will ramp up.
Yeah,
I'm out of the scheduling business.
This
by
is
the
so
way.
confusing,
I like it
yeah.
when it's nice and neat. The 3x5 model, it worked out so perfectly, and then they screwed it up by expansion. I'm like, you're on your own. You can do this yourself. Figure it out. 8, 9, 17 teams. I'm out.
Well, on the playing interconference games, that came up in basketball too, because there's now with an 18-team league, they went to 18 games and they're playing 2 teams twice instead of doing what the women do and play everyone once and one team twice.
And then skipping a team too.
Yeah, so
Which
now-
is
so
dumb, in
everybody
my
has a
opinion.
no play.
Yes.
Yeah, so I think it was Mike Young told us when we talked to him back in like June that Virginia Tech's not going to play Pitt, but he and Jeff Capel talked about
about a
playing,
non-conference
and
game.
Jim Phillips was like, "We don't want you guys because that means somebody has to lose."
Yeah.
So
there was going to be a non-conference game between UVA and Clemson.
is that the no play?
That's their no play,
Jeez.
and it was going to happen in Charlotte, and they were all set to announce it, and then Clemson bailed to take a non-conference game with Cincinnati, and now you have UVA playing Dayton in Charlotte instead.
Interesting.
But that's easy too, because you play Virginia twice every year, and then you play a different opponent twice a year.
Dude,
This year it's
the
Wake
women,
Forest.
the women literally
Yeah,
have
just play
that
Wake once and
exact
Pitt
same
once. And they're not
schedule
playing
model.
Pitt, but they're playing Wake twice. It just, and to go back to your point, Andy, not to continue to harp on this, you mentioned a 17-team league, and I would argue that's too much. And now you're having some teams play 8, some teams play 9. Like, that's just goofy, in my opinion. And two,
Well,
like,
this is the problem of every power conference now. They've gotten too big.
Yes, where everybody can't play.
Everybody was chasing the dollars. Oh, we got to get bigger. We got to go coast to coast and all this stuff. It's like, okay, but you don't play in football. You can't play half the league now.
Yeah.
The leagues are so big that just unless you play just all conference games the entire season, you're going to miss half the league. So it's like, how do you determine a champion at that point? Mm-hmm. It's the schedules are so unbalanced with stuff. I feel like eventually, if they're going to keep conference championship games, which maybe they won't in this next iteration of the college football playoff, like if you actually want to truly determine a champion, you almost have to have like a semifinal round too before you get to the championship game. I don't know how you could possibly schedule that kind of thing within the season, but it's just determining the two best teams to play in a championship game now seems very problematic because the schedules can be so unbalanced.
Unbalanced schedule, and now you may have to go off a win percentage too.
Yes.
Like that's
because
crazy
if you have a tie between one team has played 9 conference games and the other one has played 8, are you going to go by winning percentage? Or are you going to go by some metric? That needs to be resolved. And Carter, you posited the question, why didn't ACC men's basketball follow the women's model and just have one team that you play twice and then you get to play everyone in the conference? The answer is 4 letters, ESPN. Because in moving from 20 to 18 games, that's less inventory.
ESPN loses
inventory that it was contracted to have. So in agreeing to go to 18, ESPN says, okay, but we want some say-so. And so why do you think Duke and Louisville are playing twice this season?
Because they need TV matchups.
Yeah.
Because they want TV matchups, and they think that Duke and Louisville have a chance to be the 2 best teams in the league. So that was a concession to Disney.
So I want to steer the conversation back to Virginia Tech as we start to wrap up, because you guys got to get to basketball media days.
Yeah.
But coming up in about 35 minutes. So you obviously think that Whit Babcock is returning in 2026 at the start of the football season.
I said that last week, and I said I could be wrong. And Carter, there are rumblings almost daily on my phone. And yes, he's staying. No, he's not. It is so interesting. I will tell you that there are vultures circling around this place in anticipation of an AD vacancy. I mean, I've had people like lobby for candidates already, and I've had people in the search industry say, kind of like to have that search.
It's head on a swivel time. I'd be looking around me all the time if I were over there at Merriman.
Yeah, it's fascinating, and it doesn't just involve the athletic director, because as we said last week, Tim Sands and Whit Babcock have been together now for almost a dozen years, and they clearly, they have alignment. How much longer is Tim Sands going to be around? What's he got, Andy? 2 years?
I think so.
On his contract. Does he fulfill that?
And that's a much larger question for the university.
Right. Well, hey, politics has already forced out one ACC university president in this state. Could it happen here? Yeah. Tim Sands is Berkeley educated and probably viewed in some quarters as left of center. I have no idea what his politics are, but clearly the State House right now, until November's election, is controlled by those right of center, and clearly Washington is controlled by those right of center. It's been suggested to me that could play a role here in Blacksburg.
Well, regardless of who is the AD, do you expect the GM to be the one to oversee football at Virginia Tech?
Yes.
Okay.
I do. And Whit alluded to it as well, a more professionalized model. But your question is very interesting, and I say right away, yes. So if they hire a general manager and give him football autonomy, does that narrow your AD pool?
Because some people probably want control over it or want to have a
Yes.
say. Yeah.
or and certainly don't want to answer to the football GM.
Yeah.
Now, at North Carolina, how temporary is the whole Belichick, Michael Lombardi thing? But Steve Newmark, the new athletic director there, AD in waiting, he will eventually succeed Bubba Cunningham. He's a new age AD hire. He comes from NASCAR, and he's clearly a businessman. Apparently, he's comfortable with that arrangement, but maybe he figures, like most of us, that that's a temporary arrangement.
It sure would be nice if somebody at Virginia Tech just outlined what the new, reporting structure is going to be.
Yes,
once they do this whole thing.
because when they dismissed Brent Pry, what did Tim Sands' statement talk about?
Right.
Not just a financial plan for the athletic department from the board, but an organizational and leadership plan.
And Witt mentioned it before he introduced Montgomery.
Yes.
He didn't take any questions. We couldn't ask him about
But
that. Not that he might have answered.
There
but-
is no mention of that in the resolution that is proposed before the board on September 30. Will that be discussed? We don't know. So
Many questions. Yeah.
Yeah, you got to clear that from a public perception standpoint.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yes.
Definitely for
Well,
sure.
and that's why this general manager hire is so important, because if indeed the athletic director, whether it's Witt or somebody else, doesn't have full control over the football program, it all comes back on the GM.
Yeah.
And right now, you need football to be as good as it possibly can be. So, yeah, a lot of questions.
How about everybody's reaction to Bruce Arians being involved, reportedly in the search at Virginia Tech?
I thought that was a given.
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean,
It's not surprising at all. They've gone to him to ask
Yeah.
advice on other stuff in
right,
the program already.
and I know the click world, and you and I were talking at dinner last night. Thamel goes on game day Saturday, and I was watching it live, and when he said it, I was like, oh, whatever, yeah, we knew that. But all of a sudden, it's being treated as breaking news. But yeah, you're talking about messaging that they're sending messages
Yes.
to agents and such,
And potential coaches.
yeah, and this notion that Bruce Arians being involved in the search is
Is
something.
new.
Oh, huge!
Yeah. Yeah.
Well,
Come on, now.
I believe he and Eric Neander and Jeff King were all very helpful in Virginia Tech getting to this point in revenue sharing,
Yeah.
breaking down
Right.
the cap
Yes.
and whatnot. So
Yes,
it's not
well,
like
with the analytics and what position is
Yeah.
worth how.
so it's not
much,
like these guys being involved is
Is a new
is
thing.
brand new.
yeah.
I don't think he's going to be the head coach, and I don't think he's going to be the GM, Bruce Arians.
Agreed
Before
on-
people put it out there, let's
Right.
just. I think the man
Agreed
enjoys
on-
retirement
on
right
both counts. He is a senior advisor to the Buccaneers GM, and living in Tampa, and I'll bet he likes that very much.
Yes, yes. Hey, before we wrap it up, because basketball's coming up, and again, basketball media days in 30 minutes, I want to get your thoughts and then your thoughts too, David. The Kevin Giltner
Giltner's-
departure,
yeah.
how much is that going to affect Virginia Tech? And do you expect the Hokies to fill that assistant coaching role before the season begins?
I think yes, they
I do.
Okay.
elevate, right?
It could.
With Ace?
They could elevate Ace Custis,
Yeah.
but I also think I've heard some rumblings about them going out and getting somebody.
Okay.
Maybe
Your ears to the ground more on that.
maybe
than
Mike
mine.
Young. I've heard a name or two. Maybe Mike Young will shed some light on it when we talk to him in a little bit. But yeah, it's such an interesting situation. I mean, Kevin Giltner, obviously he's a Wofford alum.
Yeah.
Was with Mike Young at Wofford for 10 of 11 years before Mike Young came to Virginia Tech, and he's been with Mike Young for 6. And I know Mike Young just rehired Chester Frazier to be his associate head coach, but Giltner's Mike Young's guy.
Yeah.
The guy who's orchestrated more plays on the sideline than anybody.
Mm-hmm.
I think he is the most like Mike Young-minded coach, has been on the staff for a very long time, and really cool that he gets to go back and coach his alma mater and be the head guy there. What a mess of a situation he's
Yeah.
walking into.
Yeah, it is. But apparently now originally the players were reported as suspended, and now they're reinstated. But yeah, I'm sure the athletes have a lot of questions, and it is a messy situation. But I texted with him over the weekend, and he finally got back to me, and it's good to be home.
Yeah.
And that's what Wofford is to him. And good on him. I mean, I think given some time, he will do well there. Because as you mentioned, David, you watch them on the sideline. He's drawing up some ball plays now.
Yeah.
He knows what he's doing.
For a while, Mike has kind of it probably depends on who has the scout and whatnot, but for a while, Mike was letting Kevin Giltner kind of run things in terms of offense and select the plays and whatnot. He's the one scribbling on the whiteboard, and
he is the OC.
Yeah, the interesting part of it now is the only obviously Chester Frazier's not brand new to the program. He coached under he was on Mike Young's original staff here at Tech, but the only assistant left over from last year's is JD Byers, because Christian Webster was let go in the offseason. So some coaching staff turnover there. But yeah, I expect Tech to go get somebody. But you go also, if they wanted to, they could elevate Ace Custis. He was an assistant at Maryland Eastern Shore for a couple of years. So yeah, interesting.
Well, David, what a treat this was. This was an awesome podcast. So we really appreciate you swinging by. Trust me, you are welcome anytime.
Well,
we look
thank
forward
you.
to virtually patching you in again from the 757 next week. But yeah, definitely swing by anytime you're in town. So really appreciate you swinging by.
Thanks for having me, man. You guys, man, this is nice.
Yeah, this is fun.
I saw somebody the other day, it was like, maybe on Twitter, they were like, I would pay to sit in the same room with David Teel and Andy Bitter talking Virginia Tech football. And I'm thinking,
Sell it. My goodness. What? Absolutely.
Bring it on.
I was like, well, luckily
We take cash or credit.
Even PayPal or Venmo.
Yeah. Well, luckily me, David Cunningham, and Nick Brown get paid to do it. So we're fortunate to do it. So really appreciate you guys. So for David Teel, Nick Brown, David Cunningham, Andy Bitter, I'm Carter Hill saying so long from another edition of Talking with Teal, and we'll talk to you very soon.